Yeah, all right.
Good little jam. There's nothing
nice.
like a little bit of blues in A.
I liked it.
To get the morning going. Are you suitably ready with coffee and everything else to go, Mr. Zito?
I am, Lee. I'm very good. I made them stop at Starbucks on the way here.
Oh, the double espresso.
I always freak the people out here in the UK when I order my coffee drink. Usually the barista's like, oh, I go, can I get a 5-shot grande? And they're like, oh my God, are you going to be alive?
I will never forget taking Eric Gales for coffee. And not only is he like a 5-shot guy, he's the guy with the sugar that's it. And he's talking to you like this, and you're literally just going, Eric, there's more sugar than coffee in this drink. Anyway, look, I'm glad we got you started. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mike Zito, great guitar player with a cool past of stuff that he's done. And he's touring in the UK at the moment and in Europe, right? Bit of both?
We've been on tour for like 3 weeks. We went to Prague, we went to Poland, played a big famous blues festival there. And we've been in like Germany and Belgium, and now we're kind of rounding it out here. And the good old UK, I told you this might happen. It could happen any moment.
That is the
horrible
that's
accent.
the Dick Van Dyke, Mary Poppins accent.
It's
that one, isn't it?
It's the worst accent ever, and I'd like to do it because it upsets. British are the only people that get a little slightly offended.
It's fine. I spent my whole life in America with people going, so whereabouts in Australia are you from? Anyway, look, we've just managed to catch Mike a few days before he heads home. And we've not met before, but, I see you around.
It's like we're old friends.
Exactly. I see you doing some of the big, blues festivals and stuff. And I thought, look, while you're here, let's do something.
I'm so glad. Thank you so much for having me. I have Pedalboard Envy, which I think is similar to other types of envy.
I've just done that. This is my massive pedal board that I basically have 2 pedals that I ever use, and the rest are just
and then you have a switcher, so you're really not ever stepping on the actual pedals. Is this correct?
Yeah, look, mate. Funnily enough,
I don't know how to do that.
So Dan Steinhardt, who's a dear friend and owns this company, Gig Rig, makes pedal boards for all the stars.
Okay.
He said, do you want this switcher? And I was a little bit like you. I would go, well, what's the difference? I mean, if I want to turn this pedal on, I just turn that pedal on, don't I? And he was like, well, you could do, but when you've got 2 rows, it's kind of like, can you get to that one? But he just, once you've got maybe more than 5 or 6 pedals, and they're all plugged in simultaneously, so even though they're not on, the signal is going through 5 or 6 circuits.
Right.
You lose a little bit. And when you use this switcher here, essentially, if I switch that off, it's literally just like having a cable that goes all the way through and just nothing switched on.
Oh, I did not realize that at all.
And then you get into this like lazy, just like, well, they're all here. I don't have
Okay, so wait. So are all these switches just turning the individual pedals on and off?
There's no MIDI, no presets,
So there's nothing like when
nothing.
you hit one, 3 of them come on? Or,
no, those are the bigger, and they're too complicated for me.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it's funny. We've been talking a lot before we started about both starting at music stores, and the music store in St. Louis was like right in my neighborhood, like 3-4 blocks, and it was my saving grace. I ran there every day as a kid, and then I worked there for 10 years, and so 89, 90, it was like Boss pedals.
Yeah.
And then you could get the Boss, like the plastic case. I remember when that came out. That was like, this is unbelievable. I had my tubes, I could press the tube screamer into the plastic to fit. Had my tube screamer and my SD1 and maybe a delay and a chorus.
They were simpler times, I think, then.
Yeah.
And actually, if you think back, all the guitar players got just as good a tones, if not better, than now we've got like a million.
Sure. I always tell the story. I don't remember his name. I remember working at that store, mid-90s. This guy pulls up in a station wagon, comes in with a little suitcase, and he says, I'm making pedals. I mean, I'd never heard of this before.
Yeah.
Someone's making pedals, And he opens it up, and they're called Way Huge.
George.
And he's got this green Rhino and a red Llama, and he puts them on the counter, and he's like, I'm driving around to the music. He was driving to music stores in his car, trying to sell them one at a time. Would you like to try it out? And it was so bizarre. Like, wait, you made another tube screamer? Like, what's the point? I don't understand. And then we plugged him in, of course, and it was like, wow. So I bought I think I bought 4 or 5 of them for the store. Oh man, the owner was so mad. It was like, how much were these? Who's going to buy this? And now, I mean, why would you buy a regular tube screamer?
Well, there's just so many.
It's crazy.
Anyway, look, I always like to go back to sort of, what first inspired you to play guitar. Your tattoos are almost like a sort of a history of, I assume.
They are. I look like a slightly either homeless person or a...
Well, I can see some musical influences just from the tattoos.
Well, this is the... These two really go hand in hand for me right there. It's this.
Well, so like you say, we're both children of the 70s.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing we'll have had similar. Well, the famous players would have been similar for both of us. But which direction? Who was the first guy that you heard? And you
Eddie Van Halen.
It is Eddie, is it?
And by far no one in my house played music. There was no instruments, and we were poor and we lived in a little apartment. And there was nothing to do. But I liked singing and dancing and whatever. But I was at a friend's house, and he had an older brother. So it'd been like 77, so I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
And I remember I can remember it plain as day. I came out of the bathroom, I heard this sound. He was playing the Van Halen 1 record. And I don't know, it would have been summer of 78, I guess. So it had been out maybe for a minute. And he was playing it, and the eruption come on, and I thought it sounded like Star Wars. Like I didn't even know what it was. I just stared and mesmerized like this. And of course he came in, what are you doing in my room? And I said, what is that? He goes, it's Van Halen. I was like, well, what is that? He said, it's guitar. And I was like, oh my God, I have to have a guitar. I ran home. I was like, I need a guitar. I got one. I got one out of the JCPenney catalog, which was like a department store.
Yeah.
It was a little Harmony starter guitar with an amp. And we plugged it in, and it didn't make any of the sounds that I heard. And I was like, it's broken. What's going on? And you have to play it. I was like, oh. So I've been trying to play it ever since. But Van Halen was, and still is, man. To me, he's the epitome of that love of playing guitar, that just enjoyment of, he really inspired me and still does. I mean, I ripped apart and destroyed so many guitars trying to get sounds and tones and stuff because I knew that's what he did. I can't play like that per se, but I always like to think that maybe I have some of the reckless abandon.
It's an interesting because I don't think Eddie gets enough credit for. Everybody gives him the credit for being the great guitar player he was.
Yeah.
But he really understood how guitars and amps worked.
Yeah.
And how to do, and he was quite pioneering, I think, with some of the techniques he would use to get those tones.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, all of the, just all of the, like, trying to put the pickup directly into the wood. No one had ever done that. And the attenuator on the amplifier. There's so many different things. But I think what I mostly, when I would read these stories about him, whatever he talk about in the early days, like he had like one guitar maybe, and he had like one set of strings. He'd have to boil them over and over and use them, and that it stayed in tune was such a big deal that people were freaking out. Like, how are you getting this guitar? He's like, well, I'm spending a lot of time with it, making sure that everything is, and so I had one guitar, and I had a Fender Strat, and I just remember, like, I spent so much time with one guitar, making sure that it did all the things I needed to do. And today, we own many guitars and tons of stuff, and I feel like now, as I'm getting older, I want to get rid of it all.
That downside, we'll probably come to that because I think, and maybe we can even. No, I still want to talk about other guitar players as well.
Of course,
you're talking about when you're 8 years old and picking it up.
Yes, of course.
I didn't pick up my first guitar till I was maybe 13 or 14. So by that time, we're more into mid-80s rather than so perhaps some different guitar players influenced me. But the cycle is for guitar players of I want I start with nothing. I start with my guitar and my little practice amplifier. Then I buy my first pedal or maybe my first decent amp or whatever. And then next thing, 10 years later, you've got a rack and it's got everything in it. And
my God.
And then it back to, then there's a downsizing, and it's cyclical, isn't it? I think
it is. I think also there's, there's an idea that, well, one, gear is really fun. I was telling you, I worked at the music store. I love music stores, and I love gear. I like going to NAMM. I like seeing all, it's like playing with toys.
Yeah.
But equating it to now I have to go to work or I want to play guitar, and what does it sound like? I usually just enjoy the sound of the guitar through the amp.
Which sounds good.
Which sounds great. I think when we're younger, we think, oh man, if I have all that stuff, then I'll sound really good. I'll sound like these guys that, I'm looking up to. But I remember a great Robin Ford instructional video, and at the end of it, he's got his Dumble and all of his, his old telly and all of his stuff. And he says, hey, listen, this is all really great, but this isn't what makes you sound good. You do need to learn to play the instrument. You could just have a nice guitar and a nice, you don't have to have this amplifier. Of course, as he's playing through this, $1 million Dumble or whatever, but that inspired me for sure. I went through a lot of gear. I still probably do, but we went through that phase of like analog to digital, and then you could have all these rack processors with all of this stuff, and there was this went away from the single pedals. Yeah. It was all in one, and all of these, it was just gear. But going back to guitar players.
Yeah,
that just inspired me to want to get a guitar and play guitar. I couldn't figure out what the heck he was doing. I still couldn't, but
let's talk about your love of the. So, I went back through your sort of back catalogue, and you've always been, a rock blues style guitar player.
Sure, yeah.
So Eddie could play blues for sure, but you wouldn't put him in that necessarily in that sort of category. So how old were you when you first discovered like your first sort of blues artist, and what did who was it and what happened?
That's interesting. Because I'm white, living in South St. Louis in the 70s and 80s, so there's not a lot of Muddy Waters on the radio. There's you're not really getting turned on to B.B. King so much, and honestly, I did listen to mostly Van Halen for a long time. And I was always attracted to, they would always do kind of some bluesy songs, or even some big bandy, swingy, because their dad was a big band musician. Well, my father was like 50 years older than me, so he loved big band music. So I kind of like that. And then my brother, who's 18 years older than me, really older, he was like, oh, I hear you're into this. He goes, I saw Van Halen in concert, and we don't think he's really playing it. We think it's a trick. And he gave me Electric Ladyland. He goes, you should listen to this. And I put it on, and I was like, wow, this is weird. Like, it didn't sound like Van Halen at all. I think I kind of liked it. And I would just keep listening because I thought, well, my brother said this was good. And the more I started to listen to it, and the more I started to like it. And of course, then, you get into high school, you meet other kids. Somebody would give me a Johnny Winter, record. I heard a little bit of that, and I thought that was interesting. I never heard, no one's telling me, hey, blues. Because it's 80s. Like, we're not talking about blues. It's just a bunch of kids talking about 80s rock, but maybe a Stevie Ray Vaughan song gets in there. When I got to the music store and I worked there and I was 18, this guy working there asked me the exact same question, what kind of music do you like? And I was like, I don't know. And then I rattled off Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Johnny Winter. I think I liked Stevie Ray Vaughan. And he goes, oh, you like blues? And I was like, yeah, maybe I do. Maybe. I don't know. Tell me what's going on. And then he put Live at the Regal.
Right.
He goes, oh, you got to listen to this. Oh, man, that was like mind-blowing. Because it sounded like a big band, like my dad's music. But it had the guitar. And I could, I started to listen to it over and over and over. Very much so. And I could tell he was just kind of freestyling. Like he was just playing. I think that really appealed to me. And then it just kind of went from there. I didn't realize that St. Louis was this blues mecca, that if I went downtown, there were great black blues artists playing in clubs every night until I was about 18. And then that was it. I mean, it's just everything changed. And
do you think that I mean, the artists that I loved from the beginning and love the most still to this day are the guitar players that sing.
Yeah.
And there's that,
yeah.
because I think that there's something magical, whether you're talking about BB or Eric Clapton or Jimmy or, like, they get the space right.
Yeah.
Of like, it's a good song with a good vocal. The solo it's not too overwhelming. It works for the...
And it's working, it's accompanying their vocal. And if the solo and the soloing is great, even if it's, got some licks in it, it's like it's part of the song melodically because they're focused on their voice. I would always ask, who's the greatest guitar player? Are they, Eric Clapton. I'd say, what about Jeff Beck? And if it was just a regular person, they would go, who's that? Because he doesn't sing.
Yeah.
So they don't know any of his songs, right? If you're not really into music or guitar, then he didn't get quite to that area. But I hate to say it like, back in the day, but like every housewife in America knows who Eric Clapton is. I mean, they definitely do.
Or John Mayer today.
Oh, of course.
It's the same
Absolutely.
sort of... so when did that begin? So did you went through high school and college and stuff just...
No college.
Okay.
The music service college.
Okay. But you're just playing guitar.
Singing, singing was something that just always came natural.
Right.
So I was singing before I ever played guitar, and I would sing in competitions and do that. I want to be in front of people, and I want to get a lot of attention because that's who I am. So that was easy. Guitar is very hard.
Right.
And I'm very self-taught. I learned mostly from being at the music store, either watching the Hot Licks videos on the little TV, or just, some of the greatest musicians in the world are coming in this store, buying strings, getting their amp prepared. My very first guitar teacher, I have to brag, I only got like 2 lessons with him. I was 14. He worked at another music store. He was like 17, and his name is Richard Fortis from Guns N' Roses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was my guitar teacher. And then we would go watch him play. We'd go see him play. So in St. Louis in that early 90s, you could go watch Rich play in his rock band and doing this great guitar playing. And then you could go over here to this blues club and see like these great blues harmonica players and singers and guitar players. And so it was kind of all of that, and then Gary Moore, Still Got the Blues also did come out right at that time. So for a guy like me or you, it's just right there. It's like a bunch of really great rock licks, but he's playing blues songs. And then he had Albert King, Albert Collins, they're on the album. That was a big record.
I still can remember now. There's so many things about the time. Maybe it's just we're of an age and you get nostalgic about that era. I hate to go, it was better then, but there were things like, I think because finding good music was so much harder.
Yes.
You appreciated it more. Like nowadays, I can sit on Apple Music and I can just literally go, I'm going to listen to Mike Zito like that, 20 seconds. Oh, what's the next track? 20 seconds. Oh, what's the next track?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, quite like fast forward to the guitar solo.
I totally know what you mean.
And whereas, I don't know, you say the Gary Moore thing. I had a VHS video of Gary Moore and it was I'm not even sure it was an instructional video. It may have even just been some weird VHS video of some songs that he'd done, but it had some of the songs like Over the Hills and Far Away and it might have been just before Still Got the Blues, but I do remember he would use a camera angle of a down the neck.
Oh, okay.
And so you'd get this close up of him doing this down the neck, and I must have watched that so many times until the video had stretched to the point where it didn't even work anymore. But it was
I don't think people appreciate how much trouble you had to go to. You know, back then, and even just if I did a bunch of chores and I saved up $7, I could go buy one record, and I would go to the store, and I'm like, I can buy one record. You can't return it.
Yeah.
So you're gonna be stuck with it, and you're looking for new music, and you end up with Led Zeppelin Coda, which was not my favorite record, but I had to listen to it because I bought it. You know, that was kind of a thing where you buy these albums and we listen to all the songs. You're trying to find the other songs that weren't the hits.
Yeah.
Today, it's overwhelming.
And I suppose, artists put a lot more thought, I think, into what an album was as a start
whole.
to finish.
Absolutely.
What order were the tracks in.
Right.
Whereas you just don't need to do that anymore because no one's going to listen to it like that. They're just going to find the tracks that they like and skip to the next
they
one.
do, so they do in our world. That's one of the things that's really fun, one of the things that really, interests me about blues was, one, sincerely, I'm not a great guitar player. I'm not a technical, I'm not educated. I can't learn songs. Whenever I played in cover bands and it came to the solo, I just did whatever the hell I wanted.
Yeah.
So if it was a decent band, they were like, you need to learn the solo, And finally I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that, I had this affinity for watching somebody kind of just be like totally off the cuff in the moment.
Yeah.
Which is why I think I like Van Halen.
Right.
Or Frank Zappa. I would equate them easily with, a blues guitar player, a Buddy Guy or something, where it's like, well, we have this much space. I'm going to see what we can do. That is what appealed to me. And I think blues appealed to me because it was obviously very emotional, moved me. And, people will say it's easy. It's not easy to do it well. If you're doing it well with real feeling. And so, but I liked the space of, I don't have to learn something and I wanted to see what I can do. So that was kind of my kind of push forward, was just always trying to improvise and see what I could do.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to kind of lead back to that sort of, what do you find is the biggest challenge as singing and playing at the same time?
Yeah, that's been, that's something I've always done. I've been a guitar player a few times for bands, but I would always have my own band and sing because I could sing. It's one of the best things that I did was to, I back in the 90s, I decided I would play solo acoustic during the week. I could, make money during the week and then play with the band on the weekends because I didn't, and then I worked at the music store during the day. And so I started to get this in my mind, like, if I could learn to accompany myself on this guitar without a band, then I never need the band. That would be a good skill to have.
Yeah.
If I could really make this sound, and I don't mean playing complicated, I mean just with good rhythm and solid accompaniment. That's one of the best things that I did that spills over into the band, depending on how big the band is. Like we're out with the trio right now. So I obviously play different. I mean, sometimes I just play a lot of really big chords and stuff, or I don't play at all when I'm singing.
Yeah.
And I leave that space. I play something, I stop, I sing, and then I play some more. Of course, if we're in a big group, I have a band called Blood Brothers that I do with my friend Albert Castilla, where we have 2 drums and 2 guitars, and it's all this,
Wow.
So then it's a whole other thing about singing and playing, I think at this point I probably don't think about it so much because it's kind of just happens.
But it's more, very few people have ever seen me sing and play guitar at the same time. It's not a forte of mine or anything like that. But I have to go from the sort of the B.B. King school of literally I can't play and sing at the same time.
Okay.
Or I have to be. It's very, very basic stuff while I'm singing. I think largely because I have this terrible, unless I'm really thinking about what are the next words, I just can't remember.
Well, and I get really impressed, like when I hear like Robert Cray.
Right.
oh my gosh, his rhythm playing is so amazingly rhythmic. I don't mean intricate like notey, but like wow. And he's singing this whole other phrasing.
Yeah.
It's amazing, Now, if we make records, if we make a new album, like my newest record we made, there's a couple songs where it's like, oh, I have to learn how to do this.
Right.
How am I going to play this and sing this? We do a ballad called "Forever My Love," and it's I'm going to brag, but Joe Bonamassa, Josh Smith, they produced the record. Joe's band. Joe and Josh are the rhythm guitar players on the album. You can't ask for a better rhythm section. So there's all these parts, and then we go out, and it's going to be like 3 or 4 people.
Right.
And it's like, oh man, and it's very vocal, and it goes back to basics.
Yeah.
It's just. I mean, I just kind of lay in the pocket and let it be in the background. And I do a little. While I'm singing, just that.
So what are you? Is everything now just happening subconsciously, or is the brain having to go, I need 2% for the vocals, because that's the bit I'm best bit, and 98% for the guitar, or what?
I'm definitely not thinking about it. The only thing I'm thinking about in that situation is singing. Yeah. That's a really hard song to sing. I won't even try. It's super loud, and it's in D minor, so it's like way up here. And the singing is the most important part at first.
Yeah.
So I'm not really even thinking about the guitar. I'm hoping that my biggest thing is volume.
Yeah.
Because I use an amp like this orange here where I'm just turning the volume up and down. This is clean. So that's really the biggest thing.
Pedals.
Yeah.
There you are.
Exactly.
It's built in.
That's the biggest thing I'm thinking about when I'm singing is, am I getting the volume at the right spot so that this guitar is not impeding the vocal? That's really the only thing. And then I'm just kind of going and doing it, trying to make sure my hands get in the right spot and don't think too much.
Do you have a real leaning towards a stripped back trio style band, or you mentioned the Blood Brothers, and I know you did the Royal Southern
Brotherhood. Brothers, that was another.
And they're bigger bands, aren't they?
Yeah,
I don't mean bigger in terms of just more
people on stage. Yeah, right.
So do you have a, is one your natural happy place, or is it just nice to be able to do a bit of both?
It's always nice to do a little of all of it. I've even had big band where we had 3-piece horn section.
Brilliant.
And rhythm guitar. My oldest son, Zach, is he's a wonderful guitar player. Lives in L.A. He's out there working, and he came out on this tour this year, and that's different. Like literally just played rhythm, and then I did more of the BB. Like we did that exact same song, but he did all of the chord work.
Yeah.
And I just played the licks and sang. It's all fun and good, but every time we go back to a trio, because I'm just so used to it, it gets really comfortable, especially when you got a great rhythm section. Everyone's on board. You can hear everything. There's a lot of space. I think for me, I always feel like that's when you can hear me the most. I will really accompany my voice the best. I will stay out of the way.
Yeah.
Of my singing. So you'll hear the singing first. And then I mean, look, I'm like anybody. I want to play. I want to have that space and see what I can do. I don't do a lot of lead work where it's like rehearsed or recited. There's songs where there might be a signature lick or something. But a lot of times it's like, well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
So I like having that space in the band where I can kind of freestyle and work some stuff. When I go play every night, I want to be as surprised as the audience sometimes. I want to get excited about it. So trio, it's funny, every time it comes back, I think it's great. We talked about John Mayer and all those records. I still love the trio the best.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome. He's so good. I mean, obviously with Steve Jordan and Pino, but he really is. He's the best at accompanying himself.
I wasn't sure. We went to see his solo tour, as in just him and an acoustic this year.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And you really are sort of going, I was super. I bought the tickets a year before the concert, and everyone's like, "Did you get tickets?" Because it was one of those gigs where it's like, if you wait 5 minutes, it's all sold out. And then the closer it got, I was a bit like, do I really want to go to a 20,000 seater venue and see one guy play acoustic guitar? It's like it's hard, I think to sort of. So I had this little bit of doubt, but man alive, you talk about somebody who can play the most ridiculously complicated rhythm part while simultaneously singing a completely different melody, it's like
he's incredible.
Another level.
Yeah, he's a great incredible gig. Like that for sure.
But you're right. The best album is the Where Is the Light, Where the Light Is. Sorry, where where it's like it's just him on an acoustic first, I think, then the trio, then the full band.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
And then I do think that's where the appreciation of the trio comes in, because it's so, I don't know, that's the combination.
Just like that. Honestly, I just like that sound. And even if you go back to Van Halen, it's just guitar, bass, and drums.
Yeah.
And everybody's, of course, Eddie's amazing. But so is Michael and Alex, and they have a sound and a groove. I like the sound of the space. So, I just want to play. That's the bottom line. I just want to play my guitar. And I think, going back to guitar players who influenced me, the more and more that I dove into blues, I would get really turned on by these older albums of Buddy Guy and even older B.B. King. There's some from the 50s, where it's just guitar, bass, drums, and maybe a little piano. It's before it's a really big band, and really enjoy that. And live albums. I'm addicted to live albums. My favorite. I want to hear live blues albums. I want to hear the club. I want to hear the glasses clinging.
Yeah.
I want to hear them tune. I've been listening to a lot of Hendrix again lately, and they have released all these different concerts over the past 10 years that I just hadn't been down that road for a while. Oh, it's fantastic. He's tuning between every song. And he's apologizing and being really cool to the audience. He's like, hey, it's going to be all right. You just got to let us tune our guitars. Just hang in there. And they're just taking their time. And I'm like, well, why am I worried? I'm going to tune. From now on.
I still think that for a guitar player, it's heartbreaking that Hendrix just didn't live a little longer, make a little bit more music.
Sure.
It's just,
sure.
Anybody that plays an electric guitar, I think, will trace a big part, even if you're modern, hyper-technical metal player, I reckon if you trace that family tree back, you end up back with Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah,
always.
Definitely.
But the B.B. King thing as well, for anybody that perhaps hasn't listened to some of the earlier stuff, I almost think when he got really famous as he got older, he sort of became this slight caricature and just played this, and people just think, he just had those two licks, and that was...
Yeah.
If you go back a little bit before then, especially the big band stuff he was doing as well, he was some super good bluesy jazz guitar player.
Definitely.
And I think he sold himself as this kind of slightly bumbling, I don't really know what I'm doing kind of guitar, but I don't believe that for a minute.
No, I don't either. And if you read his book, he worked really hard to try to be respected. He had it in his head like, I'm just playing blues. He wanted to be a pop singer, or wish he could play jazz guitar. And but he was phenomenal, very accomplished. Again, the thing that appeals to me for blues rock most of all is I just like the freedom, And I've gone through all my phases where I've had more poppy songs and more polished albums and more things like that, or some of the songs that I've had more success with were acoustic. But as I'm getting older again, I just want to hear distorted, loud guitar, and I want the amps to be loud. I don't want to plug the direct into the PA. I don't want a profiler or I want a tube screamer and a loud amp, and I want it to be because I don't know how long I get to do this.
That's where I still think that's where the excitement is for both the player
Always.
and the audience.
Always.
You've worked with so many great guitar players over the years, whether that's been, playing festivals with them or collaborating with them or whatever. But have you got any real, I don't know, what are you going to tell your grandkids about? What were the ones? Without maybe being disrespectful to the facts to the players you aren't going to mention. So, but yeah, what stands out?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they're all wonderful experiences from we did shows with Derek and Susan, and of course, they're wonderful. He's always sweet, and we played with Warren Haynes and Government Mule, and the Royal Southern Brotherhood, of course, did a lot of great stuff because Greg Allman's son, Devin, was in the band. We were in the band together. So we toured with Greg, and I mean, he's not a guitar player, but really, I think some of my best stories were just getting to hang out around Greg.
Right.
And having him, I'd go, oh, those are cool shoes. And he'd go, oh, I got these shoes. He's very excited to talk about his shoes, I don't know. Robin Ford, just wonderful, amazing. I did a Chuck Berry tribute album. It was something that was kind of a labor of love, being from St. Louis, and Chuck Berry came in the music store.
That's like a who's who of guitar players, that album.
That album is amazing, and it just worked out awesome. And all these friends, I had Robin Ford and Eric Gales and Bonamassa and Alex Skolnick.
Yeah.
Huh? I mean,
you don't see him on too many blues albums, do you?
No. Oh, man.
Great player,
Alex and I are great friends. And I saw him at the 93 NAMM show at the Ibanez with Sean Lane and Paul Gilbert and Steve Vai, doing one of those other things. I always remind him of that. But that album was great, and then we were going to take it on tour. And so it was right before COVID.
Right.
And we got one really good show in St. Louis, and Walter Trout, Eric Gales, Rich Fortis, and Robin Ford flew in to do the show. And now they're just kind of all backstage hanging out, And I love all those guys, and they all inspire me. But man, Robin Ford, I'm just such a huge fan. And he was just so laid back and cool and easy and fun. And, there's videos online of him with the band, just great performance. And at the end of the night, he goes, hey, Mike. And I said, yeah. And he goes, hey, man, you're all right. He goes, you're cool, man. I'd do this again. Call me. And I was like, it was like a hot chick just said, I'll go on a date with you again.
That is the weirdest.
Okay.
So I think we've had Robin on maybe 3 times, maybe more than that, 3 or 4 times over the years of just doing stuff with Robin. Mainly probably in the earlier days where he would do a clinic for a guitar brand. And it was only this year where I sort of feel I got you're all right.
Yeah.
It's like,
he's pretty reserved.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
He's pretty reserved. And that meant a lot.
Yeah. Because he becomes, I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way if anybody ever shows in this video. Because, like, as you say, he's a little bit standoffish, I think, and then once he sort of goes, oh yeah, you're all right, he becomes this like sweetheart, different, lovely guy.
I always think about a guy like Robin Ford. It's a weird, weird sort of fame.
Yeah.
It's a weird, like there are, pre-internet people like stalking him about tone and playing. I mean, it's like odd. It's very strange. And I think it's too much. Mm-hmm. And so he wants to know, are you regular?
Yeah.
That's the thing I've learned about most people that I've gotten to be around that are famous or whatever, is they don't want you to remind them they're famous. They would like to just be this with you.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I'm going to mention it because it's crazy, but the Blood Brothers, I have struck up a friendship with Bill Murray. Okay, of all people.
Yeah. And
he's wonderful, and he loves music. I mean, he's just such a music fan, and he's quite a good singer.
Right.
So he's been singing with the Blood Brothers.
Brilliant.
He'll show up, and he'll come play, and it's wonderful. and we're going to do some things. He wants to like go and perform, you know. So that's an interesting person. And again, man, if you start to tell him about all his movies, how great they are.
Right, he closes down.
He's very disinterested.
Yeah.
It gets a little, because it's got to be weird. He can go nowhere.
Yeah.
Without people. But if you ask him about baseball or his shoes or, you know, just regular
just normal
stuff,
yeah.
He gets very comfortable. So I think when people get to a certain level of fame, it just gets weird. I always think, like, how does John Mayer, what does he do? Can you go to the store?
I don't know. I mean, we've
really gotten off track, I know.
But these are the best things about these, because and we will talk about pedals and amps and guitars shortly. I'm sure we will. But no, I think you are. Yeah, as much as I'm sure all of us, or certainly, you know, like, you know, we're all going, oh, I'd love to be John Mayer. It must be so amazing to be whoever it might be.
Sure,
you know, Bill Murray, whatever, like that. But then you sort of think it must be so hard to have the normal relationships that we take for granted.
Yeah, I think at 54 years old and maybe younger, like you think, oh, I want to be famous. Now I just think, yeah, I just want to be rich. I don't want to be famous at all. I just want the money, and I want everybody to leave me alone so I can just play guitar. And
it's the Bernie Taupin Elton John. It's like all through your 20s and 30s, the guy you want to be is Elton John, but actually when you get to your 40s and 50s, you realize that Bernie Taupin's the guy.
Bernie Taupin had a pretty good deal going.
He can go to the supermarket, no one knows it is, and he's still got his black Amex card, and you know.
Well, that's what's wonderful about playing in the contemporary blues genre. No one knows who I am at all, so I can go anywhere. That was really funny. We were at this casino in Vegas with Bill, and he goes, well, you think we can go down to the restaurant and get a table? I think they're closing soon, but I think we can get a table. I was like, I think you can get a table for sure. I can't. They're not going to give me a table. They're going to say we're closed. But I'm pretty sure if we show up with you, they're going to keep the restaurant open.
So there are some perks.
I guess so.
All right. Well, look.
Yeah, let's
talk
geeky.
about gear.
Come on.
I love the fact that you used to work in a music shop, because like, all the gear, you know, stories. It's going to be super relatable. Is there a very, very quick? We can talk about the gear that you've got now, but is there a very, very quick, like, what have you always been kind of drawn towards?
So you know, it's like we talked about, right? Like I had a American Standard Strat, and I had like a Tube Screamer or a Super Overdrive and a wah-wah, and maybe like a chorus pedal, right? Mm-hmm. And a PV Classic 30 or something, and I was just playing gigs, and my memory of that is it was fun.
Yep.
I don't remember being so hung up on twisting knobs, touching things, doing. I just remember having a really good time, and it was great, right? So
do you know what? That is deep.
It is.
Because I don't think
it is.
I don't think we should all take a minute to go. The gear is the means to an end, and the end is having fun playing guitar.
I just remember that it was fun, and I was certainly loud enough and getting the sounds, and people were into it, and it was fine, you know. And then you get a little older, and you get a little money, and then I've just gone through so much gear, partly from the music store, partly like, oh, I want to know how this works. And I told you I worked for Fender for a short period, and they had the Cyber Twin, and you deep dive into all of this stuff, but it's not playing guitar, you know. Working at Fender's was like, wow, this is gonna be, and of course it's amazing, but you're not playing guitar at Fender. You're doing a job, you know. And then you're not playing guitar when you're in the middle of these processing things and doing all this. I mean, I would be playing gigs and reach down and start pressing buttons on the digital screen to like, oh, I gotta do, you know, and then it's just nothing. You're totally disconnected. And so the cycle always comes back to, if I just had you know, really I went back to, I need an amp that has gain.
Yeah.
Instead of like, I need this. And because I have, if I don't have this, I can't play. I want an amp. I want a high gain amp slightly high gain with a master volume. That's what I want.
Yeah.
And then I just need something to kick it.
Right.
You know, a Klon copy or a tube screamer or you know, something. Just need a pedal to boost it, and I need to turn my volume up and down because I want to go back to it was fun, and I don't want to keep touching stuff.
My poor old brain is whirring around here thinking, it has actually the last 15 years of Andertons making YouTube videos and internet forums telling you which tube screamer is better than the other tube screamer, and the gabillions of hours that now as guitar players we consume reading about have I got the right git. Has it actually all been to the detriment?
I was wondering if you've contributed to mental illness.
Because actually you just sit there going, when there was just a Fender Deluxe and a tube screamer and a Strat,
right. Of course.
The only thing to focus on is making music, right?
Right.
There's no like, is there
now,
a better version of the tube screamer that you know?
But I can be both.
This is it. This is the last video I'm ever doing. I'm
you've
leaving you.
You've contributed
that's it, done it.
to the obsessive compulsive disorder of guitar. No, listen, you can do both. I can have both. I can have all my fun toys at home, and I can, you know, just have. I mean, look, sometimes at home I have like, I don't know, I'll go buy a guitar with a Floyd Rose. And I've got a little 5150 amp, and I just sit and make noise, have fun. But when I go do my job, and I'm going to play my music, that's not really a part of what I'm going to do. So for me, personally, I have a hard time kind of sometimes separating. You know, like, oh, I have this gear over here or this. And it's like I just need that sound to go with my voice to make the music. And so, yeah, it's come back around to very simple. Look, this is as, you know, simple as it gets. In my world, with other guitar players, they'll go, well, you got a bunch of pedals with you. I've got 2 or 3, or oh, you brought your pedals, huh? You got a little toy, like they're just still, like they just plug into the amp, you know? And
this is so reminiscent of...
This is really a recreation of 1990s.
Yeah.
Pedalboard for me.
And the big difference would be back then you wouldn't have even had a board. You've had a piece. They'd have all been in a carrier bag, or they'd have been on a piece of wood. You know, it's like
or they're just on the floor with batteries.
That's what I mean.
And I miss that too. I mean, so I have the Duelist right here.
Yeah.
I do really like this pedal.
You're
I got to be honest.
Second guitar player in a week that we've had on the show. That's kind of like 2 tube screamers in one, isn't it?
I believe this heavy hand. I mean, I thought, if I'm wrong.
No, you might be. I'm sure
is like a blues breaker.
Right.
And then this, on this side, this string singer is like a tube screamer.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that's what it is. I could be wrong. And,
so I think
if I am,
that's
Jesse, I apologize.
I've got a similar. This is the
you got Protein.
Protein, which is definitely.
That's a great pedal.
I'm sure that it might be Nobles and Tube Screamer. I can't remember.
But that's a great pedal too.
Yeah.
The reason I like the Duelist better is that it will run on a battery.
Oh, right.
Not.
I've not tried yet.
And so, I mean, we go all over, you know? I mean, we might go somewhere and the electricity doesn't work, something, blah, blah, blah. They have an old twin with a blown speaker, and it's like, I just need something.
Yeah.
So the one thing that's great about this pedal is on the heavy hand side, if the amp was totally clean, you know, I can get this to be a real, like, I could get like a kind of a gainy rock sound out of a clean amp with this. And then you could use the tube screamer like for your lead boost. That's kind of where my head's always at. It's like, I just need something that will be kind of gritty that I can turn the volume up and down. And I just need something that will kind of kick it over.
You mentioned that you like an amp with gain and a master volume there. So is the Duelist kind of dual purpose, I suppose, in that if you have a clean amplifier, it's got the gain there, but if the gain's in the amp, you prefer to use the...
So then, at that point, like I basically have the drives off. Like this is just this amp. I love that
It's a good sound.
And then I can... kick the volume.
Do you not feel hugely naked with no reverb?
Yeah, honestly, I've been touring with the Rocker Verb 50, so it does have reverb. I do appreciate some reverb.
Yeah.
Especially because I think when we play some of the older kind of T-Birds style blues, I want to hear that kind of psh, psh, you know.
Yeah.
So I like to have the reverb. But this works great to me as I got a little more gain. To me, that's like the rock, and then this is a little more of the blues. It's got lots of switches.
Yeah.
So it sounds kind of bright in here, but when we're on stage and everything's loud and I'm working the volume, that's a good, you know. Like I like that a lot. And so it's a really good dual purpose. This is a JHS Unicorn.
Yeah.
So it's just a vibe. I don't run it on the chorus. I run it the old vibe sound.
I mean, a great pedal, but I think if I see a guitar player maybe with two pedals, you're normally going, oh, you've probably got a drive and a delay pedal maybe or something. But so why the vibe?
It's a whole Hendrix thing in my head.
Okay.
Like, I would have a super overdrive and a chorus and a wah-wah.
Right.
And I don't like a lot. I really don't like a lot of effects. Mm-hmm. And I don't like guitars with a lot of effects, which is why I probably like Eddie Van Halen.
Yeah.
Like I like the idea of it just sounding like the guitar. And I like Stevie Ray. I like Johnny Winter. Like I think somebody gave him a phaser pedal in 1978, and he didn't turn it off for 20 years. Like, and he would just set it on the amp. I mean, there you go. Okay, so Johnny Winter. That's like one of my all-time favorites. One of my heroes. And I got to be really good friends with him and play shows with him and open for him and hang out with him. And a very life-changing experience. But it's a very simple, to me, kind of Hendrixy rig.
Yeah.
This is, I don't even know if it, to me it adds a little brightness because there's a volume. Mm-hmm. I don't really use it like super affected like that. Like, I don't do anything like that.
Right.
I just use it for...
just to put a bit of movement on the sound. Just...
In my head, it sounds like Johnny Winter, like...
I like how you switch between using the pick and using your fingers, depending on...
So, yeah. Country music got really famous with Garth Brooks, like in the 90s, early 90s. And I remember thinking, I don't have a style. And so the one thing I did learn was I tried to learn how to... Could never go like...
What, the flat picker stuff?
Or I definitely have no ability to do any of the Eric Johnson, Gales,
Nobody can
string, skipping, 5-note pattern. Talk about thinking. I don't know how, man. They're just doing that. I couldn't do it, so I would do pick down, finger up.
Okay.
So it's...
That works.
Just the way that I play guitar now, even if I'm... I have to warm up, I'm getting old, ladies. Give me a break here.
You're playing great. Don't worry about that.
I kind of go with whatever will get the note out. Whatever appendage on my hand. I know what I want to play, wherever we can get there. And I don't need too much stuff. And I think that does come back to singing. I think if I was a guitar player in your band and you sang and we had a sound, I would be more apt to have something that maybe has like some echo or some spatial sounds. Or I certainly appreciate all of that.
Yeah. You know what? One of the downsides, I think, of the board, especially, I think it's different. We had Ariel Posen on here yesterday, and he has a lot of pedals on his board, but he really knows what he's doing with them, and great guitar player. So I'm not putting players like that in this camp. But for me, I must admit, the more pedals on my board, if I'm honest with you, I end up with more shit sounds. You know, as in, it's like, really, the best sounds I get is when I really feel like I've just got one pedal on and it's the right, and I've lent into it and it's a good sound.
I think you're making a great point that I learned a long time ago was like, you really have to start with a guitar and an amp. If we're playing electric guitar, you really need to find a guitar and an amp, and then you need to be able to just play the guitar and the amp and get a sound out of it, you know, and get connected to it, where you know what this amp can do, what it sounds like, what it feels like. To me, then we can introduce this. And of course, a lot of players now, it starts here, right? Like, because that's just how things are. Pedals are wonderful. And it's much cheaper to buy a pedal that sounds like an amp than all these amps. But nothing sounds like these amps except these amps. And they don't, so I don't always have a feel, like I can feel the pedal, like I can feel the amp. So I need the sound to be the guitar and the amp, and then we'll find something to put in between. And it's really difficult sometimes for me to find something to even just go between that doesn't deter the natural sound that I'm getting.
I think I suppose I do, a little part of me just says, you know, it's important to stay open-minded and really focus on, if the individual is making music and the creativity is coming from this massive gear that they've got. Then I suppose, you know, you can go back even as far as players like the Edge, where you
I was just thinking the Edge. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's probably not, it's not necessarily fair to sort of say, right, every single guitar player, take away all the effects and get good at that first, and then have it, you know, if some people, it's not there. But I think I'm probably personally more in your camp, that where I've felt my progression has been when I've actually gone, just sit with the guitar for a bit and practice.
Yeah. I mean, I always loved Clapton.
He's my idol.
Yeah, mine too. And that newer live at Madison Square Garden with, maybe I need more coffee. It's him and Steve Winwood.
Right.
So it's pretty new. You know, it's in the past 10, 15 years, whatever. Man, the guitar sound, just the Strat and the whatever that Tweed amp is turned up.
Yeah.
And it just makes me think that's all you need. It sounds so good.
Although again, just to almost flip that, my other idol is probably David Gilmour. And I haven't seen him on the latest tour, but I've had two friends that have been to see him at the Albert Hall in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're talking about, this is David Gilmour in his late 70s now, not 40 years ago. And they both went, it was some of the best guitar sounds. But of course he goes...
Best Strat sounds, man.
But he is just, you know, lots of big amplifiers and then probably $1 million worth of effects all racked in by, you know, some crazy dude like Pete Cornish.
All right, so one more thing then. So because I think we totally agree. Like some guitar players will have this, and I'll hear them say, okay, so for this song, I use this sound, and I go, oh, well, yeah, that's cool. Or yeah, you know, so for this tune, I have this part, so then I use this sound, I use this effect, and I think, well, that's really cool. Like they have like music that they're creating, and then this pedal is part of, it's like, well, this is man, I'm never thinking like that.
Yeah.
I'm like playing wildly, and then I just go like, what about that? You know, so if I had all of that, it would just be a nightmare.
Yeah.
I would be stepping on everything, twisting all the knobs. I don't think my brain works like that. Like Josh Smith, you know, Josh is one of the most amazing. I cannot hold this pick.
Back on top of your cables.
This is what I do at my shows, folks.
You need like 20 of them sellotaped down the side of the mic stand.
Josh is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, he's really an amazing musician. He can do this on the guitar, but he's also, you know, he's just thinking about all the music. And then when he does his stuff, he's like, well, I got this sound and I'm going to do this. And he's like the perfect complement with Joe in the band. Whereas Joe has some stuff, but he's definitely on this camp of just like cranking it. You know, when we did the Chuck Berry record, and I asked Joe, you know, will you play on the record? And he was like, absolutely. And he called and he goes, what we did, it was a slow blues. It was Wee Wee Hours. It was great. His solo is phenomenal in there. He says, hey, you know, what do you want me to do? Like, do you want me to play traditional? Or do you want like fire and fury? Those were the words he said. And I was like, I want fire and fury. And he goes, I was hoping so. And he said that was the day he decided he would go back to high gain.
Okay.
They cranked up gain and he plays this just wicked solo. And then he told me, he goes, I think I'm bringing my Dumbles back, bringing my high gain amps back out. And it kind of went back to that thing. And I was like, yeah, bring the Silver Jubilee, bring it out. Those are the sounds to me. Right. So it's all good. You have not done anything wrong, Lee. You've contributed wonderfully.
Well, it's good. We really haven't talked about guitars, so I feel like guitars is, you know, that's it. We saved the guitar bit till last here. So what? Yeah. I mean, you have a Strat style guitar. You have a deal with PRS.
I do.
So
PRS has been really wonderful to me. I have many PRS guitars. Mostly the McCarty, the 594 would be the one. And on my newest album, Life is Hard,
plug it
in there, baby. You know, the cover is the 594.
Yeah. It's red? It's your red?
Yeah, they were, you know, it's a very sad story. Unfortunately, my wife of 20 years had passed away last summer.
I'm so sorry.
And so the album is dedicated to her. And then I had ordered this red guitar that I wanted for the album, and I had to order it. And then she had already passed, and we were going in the studio, and then, you know, my wonderful people at Paul Reed Smith, Rich Hannon, he was like, "Hey, this one's on us. It's on Paul. Take it and play it." So it just means the world to me.
That's super sentimental.
And that's the one I brought one guitar. I went to Sunset Sound in L.A. And of course, Joe brought, you know, millions of dollars worth of guitars, which means he brought 3. But I brought my Paul Reed Smith, and he had his $500,000 Beater 59. Well, this is just the Beater. It's not the good one.
Yeah, not the good one.
And he had a couple of, and I did play some of them, you know. But he would go, "Man, just play your Paul Reed Smith. Sounds good. Just let me see that." And at one point, he goes, "Let me see that."
Yeah.
And he started playing. He goes, "This is a nice guitar." I said, "It is a nice guitar. To me, it's like a nice Les Paul."
But were you playing Les Pauls before you had the 594?
Never.
Okay, so
I was always a Strat or Telly guy, and I probably still always am at heart. But I had this Gary Moore-esque, still got the blues thing in the back of my head for this album, and I just wanted to do something different. And I bought a Paul, and I liked it. That's how Hendrix was doing it on the live album, Jesse. I love this guitar. I love the 594. For me, it's, you know, not being a Les Paul guy. I generally play the single cut, but I also have one like this that I play. And I like that. I like that. You know, it cleans up pretty good. It also has the coil. Don't really use it that so much.
Yeah. I think that I have a general, like, coil taps for me, they're kind of like it's bonus tones, but it's not why you buy a guitar.
Yeah.
It's like
I'll be honest, I really don't need a coil tap, but I have to. I always go put a treble bleed on all my guitars.
Yeah.
As soon as I get them, I have, you know, a little.
Because you're such a volume guy.
Yeah.
You know,
and so I need the you know, the big orange cap treble bleed, and so I rip the whatever they have in there out, and I put it on so I can just turn it up and down. But I do like this guitar, these, and I did use it all over that album. got the singy quality that I was looking for. So, and sometimes live it's a little more difficult for me. Being a Fender guy, it's still, this is, it's a different thing.
Because you like the way your hand,
the way that my hand holds, the way, you know, this is so silly, but the pick is so far from the body.
Right.
I never, you know, and then on the Fender, it's like, I don't know, it's just a thing also where you need a little more finesse, maybe a little more control here. I can just hit the Fenders hard, you know, this is not so much, but it's wonderful. So I always bring one of each to the show. If I'm touring like I am, I'm going to bring a Strat. If I can bring one guitar, I need a guitar that, one, won't break when I give it to the airline. If they take it from me or throw, I don't really care. It's just 2 pieces of wood and 4 screws. I always find that very appealing. Kind of goes right along with all of our stuff. This is a K-line. Obviously a version of a Stratocaster, but the model is a Springfield.
Did you say these guys are local to you in St. Louis?
They are. This is Chris Kronline in St. Louis, Missouri. I got turned on to it. I hadn't lived in St. Louis for 20 years. I just recently moved back. But about 5 years ago, and I found out this guy's making guitars like blocks from where I was raised, from the music store in an old building in South St. Louis. And so I bought one, and I was like, wow, this is a really good guitar, you know? And having, you know, owned every Fender and every custom shop and all of that, I thought that kind of like, hey, this is a really good, on that level, custom shop guitar, not you know, as expensive. And I got to know Chris, and so we've kind of, we've designed a thing that this was just a 60s Strat, and I ripped out this and I put in Lee sensors because I'm an 80s guitar player. I put Lee sensors in so it wouldn't make noise, so I can be as distorted as I want and not get buzz. Chris hates that I've put Lee
It's funny, isn't it? We've just, the Fender have just recently launched a new series of guitars with their latest version of noiseless pickup in it.
And they're pretty good. They're okay.
But I sort of, I don't know what it is about. I don't know.
The old ones. I'll tell you, the
they
Lee
just sound
sensors.
all right.
They have a crate. You know, this is a pretty hot. You know, and they're sharp. They're a little bright. They're a little hot.
That's right. So this is taking me back now.
Ah,
so
it's the whole setup.
The different coloured ones.
The different
were the ones
coloured
that would be
ones
on like the super elite.
It's the middle, and then the neck is. It works, man. It does. It's all about working, right?
Yeah.
So we're working. We're out playing. You know, we did 15 shows in a row or something. It just needs to stay in tune, not break strings.
Yeah.
I need it to work. I need this stuff to just get the job done. I'm trying to get paid, man.
Just get paid.
Trying to get paid. But Chris makes great guitars. We have a thing right now that we just did, and this is really fun. But he's designed. It's a Mike Zito Southside Strat.
Right.
And it was exactly like, what did we do back in the 80s and 90s? We would rip the pickups out and put so it's got a humbucker in the bridge that's really hot, and it's got hot vintage pickups, and it's got jumbo frets. This has jumbo frets. You know, just kind of maybe a little better trim. It was kind of the stuff we did back then when you would buy an American Standard, when you couldn't afford the Ultra.
Yeah.
And you would try to soup it all up. And so we've been great. And Paul Reed Smith's been great about it all. It's kind of a small little thing, but yeah, it works, man. It's a great guitar, and I've been playing my orange rocker verb out on this tour and turning it up nice and loud, and it's been so fun.
Man after my own heart with a Strat that looks a bit like Clapton's Blackie.
Yeah,
Simple pedal board, amp with some gain. what are you going to do? That's it. Do the show.
Sing songs and play the blues and try to find some cool notes, see if you can hit something that's awesome. That's the joy every night is.
Well, look, it has been it's been a super pleasure having you on, getting to hang with you, talk with you. I do hope, again,
Pleasure's
some of
all
you
mine.
that watch this will go and find Mike's website and look at what his music is and upcoming gigs and stuff like that and support him in some way.
Please, thank you.
But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Yeah, man. Let's do it
luck.
again. I loved it.
Yeah.
We could talk all day.
Well, absolutely. And maybe we will next time you're in the UK. But look, good luck with whatever's happening in 2025. And hope to see you again soon.
Thanks, man. Thanks.
Thanks for watching.